I'm Katie Couric tonight with thousands of American servicemen and women coming home wounded. A presidential commission calls for a major overhaul of the healthcare system for veterans. Also tonight, the housing slump. Another sharp drop in sales makes it a buyer's market. But buyer beware of getting in over your head.
It's exciting, nerve-wracking, scary, terrifying.
It looked like the 4th of July gone terribly wrong.
It was like a war zone.
The spectacular explosions at a gas plant in Dallas. And family, friends, and fat.
Pass with some fat-free cheese.
Obesity may be contagious.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. The headlines were shocking earlier this year. Deplorable conditions for wounded vets at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington. Today, a blue ribbon panel commissioned by President Bush in the wake of the scandal issued its report. 35 recommendations in all to improve the treatment at VA facilities across the country. Here's our chief White House correspondent, Jim Axelrod.
1.5 million servicemen and women have been deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan. 28,000 have been wounded, according to a report calling for the biggest overhaul of the military health bureaucracy in half a century. President Bush took 2 of them running at the White House today.
The spirit of that report is anytime we have somebody hurt, they deserve the best possible care.
With high-tech advances in battlefield triage, more seriously wounded vets are surviving than ever before. The report recommends every injured vet get a treatment plan and a recovery coordinator. It mandates care for post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury, training and counseling for family members, and improvements in conditions at Walter Reed Hospital, where deplorable conditions were first revealed.
I guess my initial reaction is it's about time. These are issues that we've faced for, it's been about 3 years and 5 months.
That's when an IED severely injured Sarah Wade's husband, Ted, in Iraq. He's one of 644 Americans to lose a limb and one of more than 2,700 to suffer severe head trauma.
For us, the traumatic brain injury care is not in the same location as the amputee care. So for almost 3.5 years, we've been bouncing between locations, and he hasn't been able to rehabilitate his 2 biggest injuries simultaneously.
The Senate also passed a measure guaranteeing a special review process to make sure injured vets get what they need.
So we can pass legislation, the commission can put forward recommendations, but unless this administration directs DOD and VA to do it and tells them that they will have the resources to make that happen, it's just going to be another piece of legislation and another commission report.
The report says significant improvements require urgency. But when asked this morning when those recommendations might be implemented, White House Press Secretary Tony Snow couldn't say. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, the White House.
Now to the latest security concerns at America's airports tonight. Some very strange items are turning up in luggage, and the TSA is alerting screeners to be extra vigilant. With more on that story, here's Bob Orr.
Across America today, airport screeners confiscated 180 prohibited items, including bats, knives, guns, and clubs. We know that because they confiscate that many every day, as they scan 3.5 million bags a day for possible terrorist weapons. Now the Transportation Security Administration is urging screeners to look even harder for other items that could be used in bombs. This new security bulletin, described by numerous sources as routine, stems from a handful of bizarre incidents at 4 airports over the past year. In Milwaukee, 2 blocks of cheese were found wrapped in wires. In Baltimore, screeners found more cheese taped to a cell phone charger. In Houston, it was a plastic bag containing clay, wires, and a battery. And in San Diego, agents found ice packs covered in duct tape. Intelligence sources say the strange seizures are not connected to any terror threat and do not appear to be attempts to probe for weaknesses in airport security. Still, CBS News analyst Paul Kurtz says the TSA's precautions are prudent.
It's very much a good idea when they see something that looks like a bomb package to spread the word so that other screeners can detect similar type of incidents.
U.S. aviation has been at a heightened state of alert since last August, when British authorities broke up an al-Qaeda plot to bomb U.S.-bound airliners. And intelligence officials testifying on Capitol Hill today said al-Qaeda is still determined to launch another U.S. strike.
We see increased efforts on the part of al-Qaeda to try and find, train, and deploy people who could get into this country.
So the message at airports is vigilance. Despite a lack of any imminent credible threat, officials stress we cannot drop our guard. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
In Iraq today, a rare moment of jubilation quickly turned tragic. The streets of Baghdad had become one giant party after Iraq's national soccer team advanced to the finals of the Asian Cup for the very first time. Drivers honked horns, guns were fired in celebration, but it all ended when two suicide bombers attacked the fans. At least 50 people were killed, another 100 were wounded. In this country, the housing market is going deeper in the dumper. America's realtors reported today that used homes were selling in June at the slowest pace in 4.5 years. If there is a bright note for homeowners, house prices went up for the first time in nearly a year, but just barely. The median price now just over $230,000. As Anthony Mason reports, in this slump, a lot of Americans are losing their homes to foreclosure.
The numbers in California were shocking. In Los Angeles County, foreclosures up almost 800%, from just 287 homes in the first 6 months of last year to more than 2,500 this year. Across all of Southern California, foreclosures rose 725% as rising interest rates drove up monthly payments for borrowers with adjustable rate mortgages.
This is something that's cutting across all socioeconomic classes, and in a worst-case scenario, could have a ripple effect across the whole economy.
This came just a day after the stock market tumbled, when Countrywide Financial, the nation's largest mortgage lender, announced sharp increases in delinquencies, even among its good credit borrowers. In a Wall Street conference call, Countrywide CEO Angelo Mazzillo had this warning.
We are experiencing home price depreciation almost like never before, with the exception of the Great Depression.
The latest numbers show existing home sales dropping in every part of the country, down about 7% in both the Northeast and the West, almost 3% in the Midwest, and about 2% in the South. It's the fourth straight month of declining sales, and Countrywide CEO yesterday issued the bleakest forecast yet, predicting the housing market won't recover until 2009. Katie?
Anthony, thank you so much. It's a buyer's market, but a lot of people are buying more house than they can actually afford. Anthony will be back later to tell you how to avoid getting in over your head. Meanwhile, a big piece of real estate in Dallas went up in flames today. For a while, it looked like the city was under attack. Metal cylinders flew like missiles after a series of explosions at a gas supply company. It was so dangerous, firefighters couldn't get near the facility for hours. From Dallas, here's Hari Srinivasan.
An already hot day in Dallas got much hotter this morning.
They can't get to it.
Flaming debris showered nearby cars, neighboring buildings, and an adjacent freeway when fire broke out in an industrial gas plant on the edge of downtown. Tanks of acetylene and propane, which are used for welding, went flying through the air.
300 or 400 yards, they were going up in the air, going over the highway, going in between cars. Saw a couple guys that almost got hit by debris. It was like a war zone.
3 people were rushed to area hospitals for burns and are in serious condition. One of them is Ian Roski's father.
He's in a lot of pain, burned quite a bit.
Roski says his father narrowly escaped when a broken valve on a delivery truck ignited the fire.
And the guy got off the truck and said, a valve broke, I got a leak, and the next thing I knew, the explosion happened.
Either an earthquake in Texas or someone's bombing something.
Everything was just blowing up, man. Explosion after explosion. You actually see some tanks hurling.
Traffic was diverted on 2 major highways.
It's just a tremendous backup.
Even hours after the initial explosions, authorities had kept a very wide area around the building cordoned off for fear that there are still more tanks inside that could explode.
Based on the reports that we have, there are medical gases, acetylene, hydrogen, welding, cutting operations, so it's very dangerous.
Plumes of ominous smoke rose like a dark skyscraper against downtown, but health officials said the burning gases posed no threat. Still, authorities are expected to be on the scene through the night to make sure the danger from today's explosive fire has passed. Hari Srinivasan, CBS News, Dallas.
There is much more CBS News ahead, including a new study that says you are what your friends eat. But up next, our real estate series on buying a home. Earlier in the broadcast, we told you about the continuing housing slump. It may be a buyer's market these days, but many buyers are getting into homes they really can't afford. Anthony Mason is back now with our special series, Real Estate, Real Solutions.
This would be a good baby.
Newlyweds Sean and Susan McDonald are shopping for their first house.
We're not looking for a mansion or anything like that. We're just looking for something nice.
But they didn't know it would be such a battle.
It's just been more difficult, quite frankly, than I had anticipated.
Sean, who works for a credit union, and Susan, an accounts receivables coordinator, were surprised how much a bank was willing to lend them.
Then, Sean, did some number crunching, and we realized we can't afford a monthly payment like that.
So the McDonald's have cut the target price they're willing to pay by 25%.
I don't want to put us into a position where we buy a house and then can't afford to start a family.
In the housing boom, when credit was easy, that happened to many buyers who borrowed more than they could really afford. Now, rising delinquency rates are showing that home ownership isn't for everyone.
Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of homeowners did get in over their head, and they're going to have a great deal of difficulty staying above water.
Even though we're now in a housing slump, the median price of a house has soared 85% over the past decade to $221,000, while the percentage of first-time home buyers who put no money down jumped from 28 to 45% in just the past 3 years. So how do you know whether you can afford to make the leap to owning a home? First, remember, says economist Mark Zandi,
owning a home entails lots of costs. It's not just the mortgage.
Calculate the cost of your monthly mortgage payment, but don't forget insurance and taxes, and then apply the 33% rule.
About a third of your income devoted to all your housing costs is a very good rule of thumb.
Make sure you have enough cash to cover your down payment and closing costs, and that you understand what kind of loan you're getting. Adjustable rate mortgages often start with lower monthly payments, but they can rise abruptly if interest rates do, and you'll need to be able to afford those higher payments.
It's actually nerve-wracking. It's exciting, nerve-wracking, scary, terrifying. I mean, it's all those things wrapped into a big ball of the American dream turning into the American nightmare.
The good news, Mark Zandi predicts prices will continue to fall until housing becomes more affordable for first-time buyers like the McDonald's. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Glen Ridge, New Jersey.
Now, as we told you earlier, home foreclosures are hitting records in many cities. Tomorrow, we'll tell you what homeowners at risk of losing their homes can do as our series Real Estate, Real Solutions continues. In Washington today, the House Judiciary Committee voted to recommend citing White House Chief of Staff Josh Bolten and former White House counsel Harriet Miers for contempt of Congress. Both have ignored subpoenas to testify about the firings of federal prosecutors, citing executive privilege. The full House will likely consider the citations after the August recess. Still ahead, amid reports of shabby treatment of patients at VA hospitals, 2 military wives decided to take action. They're true American heroes. As we've already reported tonight, a presidential commission wants to improve the way veterans are treated in this country, but 2 military wives decided they weren't about to wait for any blue ribbon panel. They took matters into their own hands. As David Martin reports, they're true American heroes.
Marissa Behe never fired a shot, but she's one of the fiercest warriors of the Iraq War.
I just couldn't accept what we were being told by the VA. I just couldn't.
Ever since her husband, Sergeant Jared Behe, was shot in the head, she's been fighting for him and against a Veterans Administration she says was unprepared for the needs of grievously wounded soldiers.
It's not just Jared. I mean, he's one of how many that are coming home with this signature wound. There's so many more out there, and this just cannot continue to happen to all these people coming home.
A sniper's bullet drove fragments of Jared's skull deep into his brain.
This brighter white is actually bone fragments.
In an earlier war, he probably would not have survived, according to Dr. Rocco Armando.
So if you were to put that on your head, where would it?
Right, so if you drew a line, it's basically right here on your forehead, connecting with a line right about here from the top of your head.
Wow.
Where the two would connect.
That is very deep.
Very deep, and near the center of the brain.
Jared's life saved. The next battle was at the Palo Alto VA hospital, where Marissa says he wasn't getting the therapy he needed.
It felt like we were just in this holding pattern, and our next step on their books was a nursing home. So to me, that wasn't a great plan.
On her own, Marissa found Casa Colina, a private rehabilitation hospital in Southern California.
Did you see a change in him?
Immediately. We went from 3 months at the VA telling us that Jared can't do this, he can't do that. And we came here and they got him on his feet and they tried walking around the gym just to see what he was capable of and to know what they needed to work on.
How did it feel to you?
It felt great. I was actually getting therapy.
Despite his brain damage, Jared was capable of walking, and more than that, working as a hospital assistant.
So what would have happened if you hadn't been such a squeaky wheel?
He would be sitting in a VA nursing home right now.
Her battle won, Marissa went to work on a website, and the story of Sergeant Behe started to spread.
They told us, never give up, remember Sergeant Behe.
Jenny Brees' husband, Corey, an Army sergeant, also suffered a devastating head wound.
We didn't know who Sergeant Behe was, so we just Googled Sergeant Behe, and his website came up. And his wife, Marissa, had on there that any injured soldier's family, please contact me.
Corey was in a different VA hospital, but his wife was fighting the same battle for more therapy. She found it when Marissa pointed her to Casa Colina.
It's just unbelievable.
So show me how you can stand up.
The first week, you could tell huge differences in Corey.
Corey remains severely handicapped, but he is out of the hospital and once again a father to his children.
Oh, you got her. My biggest wish in life was just to have him be at home with his family, and it's happened.
It wouldn't have happened if two young wives hadn't gone to war against the VA. David Martin, CBS News, Pomona, California.
Coming up next, a new study that says your weight may be connected to the company you keep. If you're watching your weight, you may not be getting by with a little help from your friends. A study released today says when someone packs on the pounds, his or her close friends and relatives often do the same. Here's Dr. John LaPook.
For all of us looking for another excuse for putting on a few pounds, we've got a whopper.
Obesity spreads through friends and through spouses and through siblings.
The study says obesity has become a socially contagious disease, spreading person to person, almost like a virus. Among married couples, when one spouse becomes obese, the risk to the other increases by 37%. For siblings, the risk rises 40%. So while everyone might have gotten a good laugh watching The Nutty Professor,
that certain people are genetically predisposed to gaining weight,
the joke may have been on us. Nobody knows this better than Keisha and Siobhan Brown, two sisters who used to be a bad influence on each other.
If I was going to work out and I came home and Keisha said, I don't feel like working out today, then I would say, good, because I don't feel like working out either. And so then we would both stay home.
Lazy lifestyles and supersized portions are partly to blame. But researchers say it's also because we look at our friends for an idea of normal body size.
If the social norm is to be at a higher weight, then other people accept their body weight at a higher level.
They found the strength of the relationship also matters. Among casual friends, when one becomes obese, the risk for the other increases 57%. For close friends, the risk nearly triples.
The good news is research suggests if friends can help you get fat, they should also be able to help you get thin, for example, by sharing time at the gym instead of sharing a cheeseburger.
The Brown sisters did just that. With the guidance of their life coach, they are eating healthier and working out more.
Whatever!
So far, they have lost 40 pounds combined. So either follow their example or keep your heavier friends close, but your thinner enemies closer. Dr. John LaPook, CBS News, New York.
For more on this study, you can go to webmd.com and just search for obesity. And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.